All right, last week we went through and showed you our process of elimination for the 5 3/4 inch lights. We never did find an acceptable solution that we thought would work well with the stock housings and in the stock fascia. So we decided to ditch that idea and then maybe try going to a much larger 7-inch light. And the reason for that is they're much more ubiquitous. There's many more options for the bigger lights. The housings were much cheaper. In fact, we could buy 4 housings for the price of one 5 3/4 inch housing, I think just because there's so many more. So now that we've decided to go with the larger lights, the challenge is how can we get them into the original fascia? And so this week we're going to go through and we're going to try to make that fit, try to get the lights to fit in there while retaining the adjustability that the old housings had. So we'll go ahead and show you how the old housings work, and then we'll be able to mimic that with the new housings. All right, out here working on the lights. So I wanted to show you kind of how these buckets go together. And so there's a back piece, and then there's this piece, and then this is the piece that allows for adjustment to aim the headlights. So there's a couple screws and a spring that allow the headlights to be adjusted, kind of shine them out of people's eyes. We had to replace a few of these. They were in rough shape. We had a couple rusty ones. And on those last lights where we couldn't get them to fit, we even just cut the bottom completely off the light in an attempt to try to get them to fit, and it's just would not go. So they wouldn't fit in here at all. So anyway, the original lights, the halogen lights, and these are probably not original, these are probably a little bit newer, but they are just a halogen light. And these are only they're only low beam or high beam. They're not a combined, where there's 2 leads and you flip the switch and they high beam, low beam. These are just, both of them were just one set of terminals. They're just one brightness, that's it. So anyway, the way these work, they just kind of fit right into the bucket, and then there's a ring that kind of clamps them onto this bucket, and then in here that's how you can do the adjustment, and then these rings fit over the top to kind of dress it up a little bit like this. So we tried these lights are 5 3/4. So we tried to get a light that was 5 3/4. There are a few Harley lights, and we did choose those other lights that were 5 3/4, but ultimately we had to kind of abandon that and go with a bigger light. So with a bigger light, what they do is they make these brackets. So you can buy these brackets pretty cheaply. I think this bracket was less than $20. I think it was like $16 or something like that. So this bracket now that has 3 screws here, and it allows you to aim the light kind of like these do. And then what we're thinking is we would mount these into the place where the other ones were. Now we'll have to do a little bit of cutting to get these to fit. So we're gonna kind of measure 10 times like we normally do, and we even have a template here so that we can kind of know how they'll fit. So so we are in the process of trying to figure out if these will work, number one. So these are similar to this in that they'll have a plate that sort of, or a bezel that covers, and then there's a screw hole right here. There's a bezel that will cover this entire thing, and they will stick out slightly further, so they'll be a little bit taller off of the frame here. So anyway, this is what the bracket looks like, and then we installed some of the lights just to make sure that they would fit. Whoops. And and they do. They fit really nicely. So this is made for these, so it's a good thing. But you can aim them with those with the spring-loaded nuts. So anyway, the project for today is trying to figure out how we're going to mount these in here, how we're going to secure them into the thing, and see if these will work for us. Okay, so the progress on this bracket. So we've had to modify the bracket just slightly. So we've trimmed down a little bit of these tabs to try to get it to fit into this cup. And then we've modified the front a little bit here. We've had to cut in some holes here to get it to fit. So we think we've gotten it to fit pretty well. So there's a certain way you have to put this in. Okay, there. So now it's going to fit like that. And so we've gotten some stainless steel screws to start mounting this. And we're going to start mounting it, but we wanted to be sure that it would fit, and it looks like it's going to just fit. So far so good. So we're going to drill this out, drill the bottom, and then we're going to mark the holes on the mounting plate, and then we'll mount the mounting plate, and we'll see how that goes. So we can't use the mounting holes that it has because they are kind of half off of this little frame. So this set of holes is more like maybe 6-inch holes. The lights that are in here are 5 3/4 normally, and this is a 7-inch bracket. So there's a little bit of trouble. So we're kind of getting it to fit. So we're gonna have to just drill through the base plate to get it to go. Alright, so this is where they ended up being, the holes that we marked. So they're a little bit closer in than these. Like I said, this bucket is just a little bit smaller than this, so these holes line up on the outsides of the bucket. So we're going to drill these out and then maybe mount this thing in. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, so it's done. This one is mounted. So the bezels for the lights were supposed to be here on Friday. So there's a bezel that's going to cover this, and it's chrome, and it'll go all the way and cover this entire thing. It was supposed to be here on Friday, and now they're saying, okay, it'll be here on Monday. Today's Saturday, so the problem is we don't know how thick that's going to be, so that will be kind of one of the things that determines where this other light is going to live. So for now, we're going to call this good. We just mounted this in here to give you an idea of what it would look like. And so there's plenty of clearance on the back. So unlike the other lights, this one, there's plenty of clearance. We may do something about sealing this up. We don't know yet. We're going to test it when we get the bezels and everything. We'll test it all out and see how much water gets in there. They do drain from the bottom a little bit. They're sort of designed to do that. So anyway, we are pretty happy with the way it turned out, and we didn't modify the shell an extensive amount, so it's still, you know, solid and it looks decent. All right, so we got the bezels in, and we have this one semi-installed with the rubber gasket and everything to seal it off. This one is just kind of placed in there, but we're trying to get the spacing between the lights right, so we had to wait till the bezels came in. So now we've kind of marked it up to where we think it's going to fit, and so we'll go ahead and cut a few grooves into the remaining piece, and we'll see how that turns out. All right, so we lucked out and we got some of the original turn signal lenses from some friends we just met. Thanks, Steve and Susan. They came through and they came by last week to visit with us and see our bus, and they have the same bus as us, and they saw that we don't have these. And I told her, you know, I'd kind of just given up on looking for those. And so with the headlights, we were going to do something about the turn signals. We didn't really know what. And then these came up, and these are perfect. So these are obviously used. They've got a little bit of wear on them, but they are in great condition. But what I was going to show you is I used to do pinball stuff for a long time, and so a lot of times the plastics would be pretty old and kind of beat up a little bit. So here's one that I've treated, and then here's one that I have not done yet. And you can see this one looks like it has almost like a glaze on it, almost like a oxidation layer. And so what this stuff does, it's a very minor abrasive. So this is Novus number 2, and we use this stuff for pinball stuff all the time, even on clear plastic and stuff like that. And I just kind of wanted to show how we clean these up. So all I do is I put a little bit of this Novus number 2 on a rag, and then we just kind of, you just literally buff it, and the difference that this stuff makes on this old plastic is pretty phenomenal. So we'll go ahead and treat this one real quick, and it is a mild abrasive, so it will scratch, you know, just a little bit because it's buffing it out basically. This one does have a small crack right there, so but we just rub it in and you let it sit for just a little bit, and then we'll come back through and wipe it with the clean rag. Okay, so we've let it dry a little bit, and now what we're going to do is with a clean part of our towel, we'll come through and just buff it, like almost like a car, like you would like a car polish or a car wax. So I'll just give it a nice buffing, and it just makes it a lot shinier and just brings out the color a lot more. So anyway, we lucked out and got these, and so we were pretty happy about that. Now we're trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to get a bulb into the thing? So that's the next thing to figure out. All right, so continuing on with our headlight stuff. So what we're trying to address is the turn signal. So when we replaced the turn signals with all LEDs, we bought these, and we were really happy with these. So what we were trying to do is find something that might work in this hole. Before, that was just a regular incandescent bulb fit through there, but we don't have that anymore. And so this never happens, but we went to O'Reilly's and got one of these. It's almost like a emergency GM kind of part, and this fits our little bulb. Let's see if I can get it in there correctly. So it fits the little bulb just like that. But the nicer thing is when we flip this around, it actually fits into this hole pretty much perfectly. So it pretty much twists and locks, and it's in there, and it fits really nicely. It's all weather tight. It's all weather tight connectors. So we've hooked it up over here. This is the one with the lens. We have not secured the lenses yet. That'll be next. But we have the light in there, and so we can kind of show how it works. So it's pretty bright, and that's the marker. So that's when markers are running, and then with turn signals, it will look like this. So that should be more than bright enough. So we're really happy with the way this turned out and the way these lights are shining up. We were kind of concerned about what we were going to do with the markers, but now we've got, I think, a really good solution. So these are weather tight connectors, and we'll solder these in and get them hooked into our harness, and they should work perfectly. So we're pretty excited about that. Alright, so to fasten the light or the lens onto this turn signal guy, we went ahead and got the light for here, but now we need to be able to screw it in. So a lot of these are broken off. So these, this one's got a broken screw in it apparently. This one here looks like it's semi-stripped out, but these aren't terribly secure. So what we've thought about doing is making a backing plate for these. And so a plate that would go across the whole thing and kind of give the thing a little bit more strength as well, so it's not just being held on by the corners. And so we've got this 1.5 inch piece of aluminum, which we're going to cut down the middle and then cut 4.5 inch strips to fit across here. We'll drill holes in it, and then this will be the backing plate for some nuts, some washers and nuts to go on the back. And hold everything in. So hopefully that'll be nice and secure. Alright, so we've got it all ready to go back in. We're pretty happy with the way it turned out, especially these side markers. We're going to go ahead and we've got connections for the marker lights, and then the turn signals, and then inner and outer headlights. And we did get these, they're anti-flicker devices, so we're going to be hooking those up in line. We've heard that if the voltage isn't super consistent, that these can flicker pretty bad. So we don't know if that's an issue or not, but before we even have that problem, we're going to install those. So we're going to get these all hooked up. We've got new clips, so we put all new clips in here. Because the old ones were, they were rusted pretty bad, and a couple of them were missing, so we went ahead and replaced all of them. And these are a little bit nicer design. They've got deeper threads. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and hook this up and get this thing installed. Well, we ran into our first issue before we even got it installed. One nice thing is we plugged it all in, verified that it's all working. It is working the way that we want it to work, but we got a bolt hitting right here. So one of the brackets is just hitting right here. We may have trouble here as well. We don't know yet, but we won't know until we clear this bolt. So let's clear this bolt. We'll take a Dremel and kind of just take a little bit off of this. It needs maybe 1/2 inch in to be taken out, so we'll do that real quick. Go ahead and cut that away, and then we'll give it another try.
How deep?
You see the black Sharpie on the bottom?
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah, I don't know how deep inside it's going to go.
Alright, so I think we've removed enough of these little guys. We had to take a little bit off of this one and then quite a bit off of that one. But we've got it to a point now where it fits. So we're going to try to hook it up again, and then we'll try to connect and see if it goes. Here. Okay. All right, so we have everything back on. The bezels are installed. We got everything to fit. Everything, we've tested it all out. Everything is working correctly. We've got our centerpiece back on and all the trim rings on, and so they they really make it look a lot nicer and a lot more finished with the trim rings. We've also replaced the hex with these big P3 screws, which also dress it up a little bit, make it look a little bit nicer. So we'll show you what it looks like during the day. We'll also do a nighttime, but it's daytime right now, so we'll show you the daytime. And so go ahead and markers. So the marker lights come on and they turn on these little guys here, which are just top and bottom. They're just marker lights, and then those. And then do hazards. So hazard lights are there. So they're quite a bit brighter. Okay, go headlights. So there's low beams. So low beams are just these three and these three of the outer two only. So in the US, you can only run 2 headlights at a time on low beam. So high beam turns them all on. So this should be putting out quite a bit of light. So I know it's hard to see in the daytime, so we'll do again at night just to see. But the old lights were pretty bad. It was like almost like an orange glow in front of the bus. So these should be quite an improvement. So when nighttime rolls around, we still have to aim them. So we still have to aim them to the right place. So we'll be doing that. You need to do that like on a long flat piece of ground with a wall that you're a certain distance away from. And so we'll do that later, but for now we have them in. We've put the bezels on, and we'll just pop those off, and there's 3 adjustment screws that you can tilt the lights any direction. And so we'll probably do that in the next few nights. So after we finish that, we'll call it good, and we're on to the next project.
Yeah.
All right, PS, so on the video where we did the marker lights, several of you commented that the rearmost one needs to be a red light. So we've gone ahead and replaced that now with this red one. So hopefully that puts us more in compliance. So thanks a lot for the comments and suggestions. We do read every single comment, and we did look this up, and sure enough, the rear one is supposed to be red. So we've now changed it to a red one.